Again, very proud of our team. Great game with Boston College on Saturday afternoon and early Saturday evening. Kind of a pro-type game. Very limited possessions. Both teams kept the ball. One of the few games I've ever been in where in the first and fourth quarters each team only had one possession. So you had to make them count. You had to be very efficient. I thought offensively we were extremely efficient on the day. Had a couple key drops I thought could have really helped us, but that's part of the game. And doing that, but I thought we moved the ball extremely well. Thought we ran it and kept good balance. I thought we really moved it when we had to. The last drive, I was very proud of the guys' execution, the run-pass game, and also managing the clock and getting the ball right where we need to get it to, and getting the kick. Defensively, did a nice job in the game, gave up some plays, but at the same time, didn't break all their trick plays, all the gadgets, the big shots, which you have to take to change the field position. They always hear me talk about big plays. We were able to defend those. They ran the ball effective, but they were very patient. They did a good job being 3 yards, 4 yards, staying patient like that, and got the edges a couple times, but our defense did a nice job when they had to do it. And special teams, thought we had a nice night, had one missed field goal, which we wouldn't have, but other than that, thought we covered kicks very well. Thought Casey punted the ball extremely well in that night, and for a very rainy night, thought we took care of the ball very well. Had the one turnover, tough play the way it went, but took care of the ball extremely well for a very wet conditions. Threw and caught the ball extremely well, except for the 3 or 4 drops, which were critical. But again, with limited possessions and a couple penalties here and there, those get magnified because you don't have the ball much. But that's the way those games go. You got to learn to manage those games and win them. And did a great job. Steve did a great job with that team. They're a good football team. They were top 15 defense in the country coming in. Played some really good teams. Bowl eligible. They'll end up going to a very good bowl game and doing well. So saying all that, that was behind us. Our ACC regular season is over with. Now we have to play our biggest rival as far as Florida and playing these guys. They got a very good team, very dynamic on defense. A lot of very good players, Fowler and Taylor and Darius Cummings and Hargraves. And they got tons of good players on defense. Very good, very multiple in their fronts. Good at all 3 levels up front, mid, second level, and third level defenders. Offensively, very good running backs. Offensive line is big. Robinson's a very good playmaker outside. Treon Harris brings a really nice dimension to them as run and pass. Really emerging as a heck of a player. Of course, tight end's a good athlete, and on special teams they can run. They're a typical Florida team. They'll have a lot of guys drafted, I figure, and a lot of guys in the future off that team be drafted. So should be a great ball game. We need to play well. Need to prepare well during the week and get ready for their best shot. And we'll have to hopefully give our best shot. So, questions?
Well, I know this is maybe an obvious question, but
none of them obvious.
Will's kids responded pretty well to the last home game that they're going to be with him on Saturday, carrying him on the field and everything. Obviously, you would expect that same kind of emotional response from them to be in with Will for his last game. And how much does emotion like that really count in a rivalry game like this?
Well, I think emotion always counts, but I think at the end of the day, execution wins. And I think emotion is going to be critical. Hopefully, we'll be emotional. To play Florida, our kids will be high. Our kids will be excited. So I think you'll see 2 teams that are emotionally and physically ready to play, and then who can go out and execute and win the battles of the physical, mental execution will be the team that wins.
And I know that a lot of people said during this process, especially in the last couple of weeks, he's been praised a number of times for his grace and professionalism about this. And again, that's something you probably expected no less out of Will.
No, Will's a superhuman being. That's why he's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. You wouldn't expect anything else. Will's a great competitor, a great coach. He'll have a tremendous future in this business, and continue to have a future in this business. And that does not surprise me one iota. I would expect nothing but that from Will.
Have you spoken to him since?
No, we haven't. Not to him. We'll probably speak after the game, just say things. It's tough when you're a competitor, but I've reached out to mutual friends, and they know that thoughts and prayers and everything like that.
Jimbo, did you learn anything more about your team with BC in that fourth quarter? Because that fourth quarter seemed a little different than some of the other ones where you guys came back. This time it was BC coming back, and they had that long drive at the end.
Well, I think we made the stops and we had to make it. I think defensively, in a couple of those games, now you go back to Notre Dame game and that game, defensively got stops, and of course we had a big drive on offense. But I think our team, again, can stay in the moment, keep playing, and doesn't worry about scenarios or situations, just plays the next play and stays poised in those moments. That was a different type of one, but still very similar.
What was going through your mind as BC was driving? That had an 8 or 9 minute drive.
Hope to hold them to a field goal so we can come back and either kick a field goal and tie it, or once they got into the red zone, or so we can score, get it, and we'll score a touchdown. Or do we have to score a touchdown or a field goal and worry about field position and plays? You're thinking about how to go have success in the game. You don't sit and worry about problems. You solve problems. problems were solved by moving the ball and scoring points on your side.
When you take into account some of the drop passes, James has played about as
I'm gonna tell you what, when he may have graded individuals as far as decision making and reads, coverage, getting the ball where it's got to be get, as well as he may have played all year. He was 22 of 32 with 4 big drops, a touchdown, a post route, a nice over route for a first down, a little bubble route for sure, and then he had the 2, the ball down the sideline to 80, and then the other ball off his fingertips, which was pretty good throw. I mean, you're talking about 28 of 32 in a pouring rainstorm against a team that's very tough on defense, very multiple looks, a lot of blitzes, his protection checks and getting us to the right protections and sighting and getting the ball out and checking down, and I thought he played extremely well in the game. You're exactly right.
How's he feeling with the ankle?
Oh, he's fine.
Is that the first game he didn't make a bad? It seems like at least he's had one kind of bad decision. I didn't see one in that game. Did he make a bad decision?
No, I don't think he had one in that game at all that I can remember.
Is that him feeling better with health-wise, or the offensive line kind of coming around to?
A little bit of everything. I mean, and receivers getting where they're supposed to be, running routes on the right time, getting extra protection, him seeing the field at times, and staying in the moment and keep making consistent plays. I mean, just an accumulation of things, you know what I mean? And just, that's why sports, I mean, you don't always have your AA game every time you play. But, he's always been able to find ways to play when he has to, and his A game is still pretty good.
Jimbo, how good is Hargraves? Is he the best you guys have gone up against as a corner?
Yeah, he'd be one of them. There's a couple other guys we faced that were really good, but it would be nobody passing him, I'll say that. They've got a couple guys in secondary, 2 or 3, guys that can really cover and play.
When they go up against a really good receiver, do they blanket? They put Hargraves on him the whole
He does a lot of times. I've seen him do that at times. They'll move him around. I'm sure they will at times. And now, do they go sometimes they'll go to the slot, sometimes they don't, because then you get into a lot of different calls. But you can go in the slot in and out. They can or they won't. I don't know what they'll do. I'm not sure, but they have. I've seen them do that.
So you expect that could be a possibility with Rashad?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of plan on that every week with guys. We really do with him.
Tim, do you think this game against Boston College could prepare you for Florimore? Because I'm guessing they're going to try to do ball control against you guys and follow a similar pattern.
Well, I think teams are, if that's what they do and their strength is, yeah, and staying patient on offense and defense and understand, you have limited opportunities if teams do that. Or the other thing is, like, if we hit that touchdown and go up 14-3, put a little pressure and get a hold and then score again, it could change that game too. So, or that you're able to get a couple stops and score quickly, you could put pressure back on them. So that works both ways, If you're a ball control team, that's great, and they say, well, when you get behind, you can't catch up. That's just whatever the scenarios come out. But, you just know that you have to be patient on both sides, and you have to take advantage of your opportunities.
Rashad feeling fine with his arm, any lingering effects?
No, not at all. I was when they come back in for treatment yesterday, and that's why I thought it'd be sore. No, they say everything's good. Very happy with that.
Featherston, is he okay? Or
he'll still be out today, but I think looking a lot better. Looking a lot better.
Jimbo, you have a chance to go undefeated, at least in the regular season, for a second straight year. What is that? What comes to mind with 2 straight undefeated regular seasons?
We do that. If we get this one, get ready for Georgia Tech. I don't think about those things. I really don't. That's we just got to go where we got to go and do what we got to do.
Is it tougher to go undefeated now than like maybe in '93 when you were with Auburn?
I think it's tough to go at any time because if you did, there'd be numerous years of people doing it. You know what I mean? But and you have to have a little bit of everything. You have to be good. You got to be lucky. Things got to bounce right. You got to make plays at the right time. You got to have the right dynamic on the team. You got to have. There's so many things. So, but that's it's funny when you're doing it, you don't even think about it. That's not the concern. The concern is the next game and how you prepare.
You don't look way down. You try to keep in the moment and don't.
I'm trying to look. I'm thinking what I got to do after I get out of here in about 5 minutes.
Do you talk to the team about, hey, this is one of our goals, this is one of the lights at the end of the tunnel that we've talked about all season? Just this getting to the end of the regular season and having this opportunity for our
No, and also playing against your rivals and trying to win the games in your state and all those things. Those are goals in which we have. We always talk about hey, that's it, thank you, but that was a goal we had. Now we got to take the next step. It's like climbing a mountain. You got to keep taking one step at a time.
Is undefeated ever a goal, or is it start with ACC championship, or what?
Well, no, we don't ever say undefeated. We don't ever say undefeated. The ultimate goal is national championship. That's always our goal here. Then we build them down. We layer them down after that.
Does it make you nervous at all knowing that this Florida team basically has nothing to lose and knowing that they have a couple of trick plays that they've been running?
Yeah, you get that from everybody every week. You can't worry about things you can't control. What we can control is how we play, and that's all we got to worry about. That's all we can worry about.
Jimbo, do your defensive coaches have any kind of an edge in having played against Kurt Roper recently? Or has he made enough changes there that?
Oh, Kurt's an excellent coach now. He's very bright. I mean, there's a lot of things they do differently, but it's like all coaches. You still do things that you've done in the past. I do them. Will does them on defense. I mean, we all have the things that got us to where we've gotten to that we believe in, and there's going to be things, but he's obviously changed some things, and his personnel will change it too.
Does it motivate the team that this was the last loss against the Florida Gators?
No, we don't think about it. It'll never go in negativity. And I know people. It makes a great story, but I've never thought that way, and I think it's bad to think that way. I think it gets you in a bad frame of mind. That team there, that was 2 years ago. That was 2 teams ago. These guys are totally different. It's a different group of people.
Jimbo, what do you think this team has played so much better with Treon once they made the switch at quarterback?
Well, I think also they've got their backs healthy. And I think they've been able to run the football. They've been content that way. He brings a dimension in the run game. You know what I mean? And I think, again, they just haven't turned it over. And I think turnovers at times for them in the past, it'd been critical for them. I don't think they've turned the ball over. But Treon can throw the football now. He can throw the football. Remember, we recruited him. I thought he was pretty good now. Real good.
Does that help when he's committed here and you've been committed for so long? You maybe know his strengths and weaknesses.
No, I mean you know a guy's talent. You don't know till you coach a guy. You really don't know his strengths and weaknesses till you get to coach him. I mean, you know his talent level. You know one thing. You want him on your team, so he must have been pretty good.
On a personal level, what do you think of him during the whole process of? On a personal level, what do you think about Treon as a person?
Oh, I think he's a tremendous person. I enjoyed recruiting him, got to getting to know him, thought he had a great family, and always very personable, nice guy, bright guy, sharp guy, very conversational. You know, he was fun to be around. I enjoyed being around him.
Jimbo, do coaches' sons have, especially when they're quarterbacks, have something they bring to the table automatically?
Yeah, they're all nuts. They act like coaches. I listen to mine at 13.
Just being exposed to.
You do. There's so many little things that you don't realize they just absorb. You know what I mean? From situations, hearing you say it, or being around it, hearing players say things, watching it. Just the knowledge of the game of football that can only be gotten from being a gym rat, for lack of a better word. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just absorbs in you. It's like if your kids followed you around little things about writing stories or getting information or reporting information. They were in your side all the time. Think about that. All the little nicks and knacks and ways you did things. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain to somebody out there that those kids they watch them every day and they're around them for hours and hours every day and listen to you at home about this guy or that situation, this situation. I mean, it just absorbs in them, and they just become sponges, and they're so intelligent about the game.
Jimbo, you mentioned Treon's committed here and Galvin's committed there.
Yeah.
How does that work? How do those doors open up after a guy commits today? And not specifically about those cases, but
it depends. Some guys say, I may have done it early, I may have done it for the wrong reason. I see what's going on there, and we don't pursue guys after. And I say this, people, they can say all you want. A guy commits somewhere else, I say, okay, I wish you the best of luck. If you happen to change your mind, please call us back. If you want us to still recruit you, we will. If you don't, we won't. And some of them say, yeah, please give them a call every couple of weeks. And one of them may say, hey, Coach, I'm thinking, okay, and we talk, and and you go about it. I don't believe in trying to bash those guys and do that, but kids are kids. You change your mind.
Hey, Tom. Hold on one second. Tom D'Angelo, you want to go?
Yes. Hey, Jimbo.
Hey, Tom. Hey, buddy.
You can knock on wood now when I ask this question. Your last loss was 2 years ago today, and I know you're not thinking about that now, but as a historian of this game, at what point do you think something like this, you think about it in just the accomplishment of this program over the last 2 years?
I really don't, Tom, because you're so engulfed in where you're trying to go. We still haven't gone. We still have other places we want to go, and we want to continue to go. And I've never been a person who sits and dwells or thinks like that. And I guess that was ingrained in me from my father as a young kid, or my mom, that you have to keep. All right, you did that. Move on. What are you going to do next? And that's the way the world works. What have you done for me lately? And when you retire or something like that, you may look back and look at that. A lot of years down the road. But right now, you're just trying to be successful and fight and scratch and claw for everything you get.
But for any program to sustain that kind of success, not a lot have. I mean, there's just so many things that go into that
there are.
You can imagine.
There are. I mean, it becomes a culture, it becomes a way of life, it becomes a belief, it becomes a certain confidence, but it becomes who you are and how you do things. And that's, as a coach, that's what you want. And your kids to truly believe in the the organization that you built and the foundation of the things in which you do. And we've been very fortunate to have a tremendous amount of great coaches here, tremendous amount of great players, even administrators and helpers, and it's all the supports. People don't understand. Like they used to say, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, think about what it does to have 120 of them this long. I mean, all the facets of everyone who touches them in academics and the school and the whole organization, the whole atmosphere, Tallahassee in general, the stadium, the fans. I mean, all that goes into what we're doing and the success we're having. And you know, it becomes a culture and a way of life. And I thank everyone that has helped us get along the way. But hey, don't sit back and look at the lawyers. I'm gonna keep asking. We got a lot of work to do.
If I could, one more strength of this week. I don't know if you've been asked this, I can't hear the questions, but you faced a lot of mobile quarterbacks. Where does Treon Harris fit in there, and what that experience, how much does it help your defense?
I think it definitely helps us because you get so many of those guys, but Treon's as good as anybody. And Treon is one of those guys I always say is, be quick but don't hurry. And what I mean by that is when you watch him play, it's like everybody around him is going 1,000 miles an hour, and he's going 5 miles an hour, but no one can catch him or touch him. And he just, you know, he's always feeling and instinctive, but he's extremely athletic and he's a heck of a football player.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Thank you, Tom.
Coach, Carlos, Nick, and Rashad both had pretty good days. How special was it for them to do it on senior day where they were all?
That was very critical, and I was very happy for those guys to be able to do that. I mean, Carlos, I'm going to tell you what now, Carlos is, talk about the big play. That run he made, the first run of the last drive, we got pushed back. Had a block, we got a little penetration. He reverses field and comes back on an 11-yard run to get that momentum, starts, scores a touchdown. But go back and watch that film, watch him block. Now, he blocked extremely well in that game, played very well. Nick had a great game, blocking, receiving, big plays. Rashad. I mean, you know, does what he does, them guys every day. And again, happy because of what they've meant to this program and what they've helped this program become because of their presence here. It was great to see that.
How special was it for their families also to be there?
Well, I mean, I know they all have. That's one thing of all three of those guys. They have tremendous support systems and parents and family who love them. And you know, there's no pride in the world like when you watch your son or your daughter do something. And then from a dad's standpoint, I mean, to me, that's of all the things you do. That's the proudest you are of any time. So I guarantee you they were happy.
The last drive leading toward the field goal, you ran the ball a lot and gave it a lot to Dalvin. That showed kind of the trust that you have in him.
Yeah, I mean, it was thought in the type of runs, and we knew there was going to be hard cutback runs because they were going to pursue and blitz, and his style we thought would be very good in that situation.
For a freshman in that spot, kind of a big deal for him.
I'll guarantee you. About for that left tackle and Travis Rudolph and Erman Lane and all those guys on defense. Those freshmen now, they've grown up. They've really, you know, those guys are developing into very accountable guys, and I think that's what's really helping us.
What have you thought of Dalvin's picking up pass blitzes?
Done a real nice job. Had one in the game he let slip. Yeah, we had one in the game he let slip, and he knows it. On one later that got us a little pressure, but he is. And I mean, he'll stick his nose in there on you now. I mean, when he knows where he's going, what he's doing, which he does all the time. Sometimes you'll just happen to be a twist and didn't catch the guy, but I mean, he'll stick his nose in there. He's really becoming a complete player.
I think Bobo in that long pass that Bobo dropped, but he had stoned a free rusher from BC on that play.
Big time. And I mean, before, those guys, they never had to really pass block before. I don't mean that. I mean, against big people. Against high school, it's guys that are similar to your size. And I mean, you're a 200, 205-pound guy, but them backers are 230, 240. Sometimes you have to come off on a D end or a D lineman, and him to put his hands and face, and you know, it takes a lot of guys. That's hard now, and he's really developing into a complete player. And catching the ball out of the backfield.
Jimbo, this game a lot, I mean, with the conference championship coming up afterwards, there's been talk in the past about maybe moving this rivalry game to a little early in the season. Are you in favor of maybe getting that so you don't have
I think you got to be careful there. Ideally, you know, I remember Chris Spurrier wanted to do that back in the 90s. Yeah. Remember, he wanted to do that because they were playing a conference championship and Florida State wasn't. He didn't. I mean, I think you got to be careful of traditions and history. That's the thing, and me as a traditionalist of college football and loving history of college football, when these games are played rivalry weekend, I think is very critical. Now, if you ask just as a logistics standpoint about coming off those types of games and going into conference championship games that usually mean a lot, or you're talking about national championship bids, a big rivalry, who's also a great team and things like that, I mean, there is sense to that, but I think you'd have an extremely hard time because of the history and tradition of when this game is played, why it's played, and the history of it in general.
Jimbo, across the conference, there's been less big kickoff returns, punt returns. Have you seen anything different?
I'm going to tell you what, we're talking today. I think you go back and look, we faced the number 1 defense in the country, number 7, like 9, 11, 15, 25. I mean, we faced like 4 of the top 10. They're in this league. And the top 25 is like 6. I'm just talking off my head. Don't hold me to this exactly. And in the top 50 is like 10. I mean, so what I'm saying is, very good defensive league, usually very athletic guys covering kicks. So that usually translates to great space players being able to do that. So, this league really this year to me has been a very, very, very good defensive league. I know Clemson's #1. I mean, all those teams. We play some extremely highly ranked defensive football teams.
Jimbo, on that last drive, wouldn't you gear it down and try to win at the last second as opposed to maybe scoring with 2 minutes left? Or are you thinking like...
Oh, no doubt. I'm going to take the game on the clock. I'm going to take the game on the clock.
Do you study that? Like, situations and stuff?
Well, you do, and then you got to know your own team. You got to manage the clock. It depends on how many timeouts you got, how many timeouts they got, where your field goal kicker's comfortable range is, not only by his range, which ours is as big as anybody's, but then you talk about taking weather conditions, wind, all those types of things. Like I said, I felt very comfortable once we hit the 25. You know what I'm saying? For the 40, I've been a 42-yarder. But then with 2 timeouts and making them try to use those timeouts and us manage it and get it down to where they don't touch it again. You know what I'm saying? And those things that's all calculated. You got to be processing that all the time that's going on.
That all you? You have coaches in your headsets?
Well, we do. I mean, I'll ask and just double check things. But I mean, you got to, because you're making those split decisions. But at the same time, having Randy there and guys have been experienced and up top, double checking, hey, how many timeouts, what's this? I want to run it to here, just, hey, I'm going to do this, right? Just confirm, hey, I'm doing this, this, and this. You guys good with that, right? You know what I'm saying? We all rally and communicate like that. But as the guy doing it, not saying I do it all myself, but you got to be able to process it and make that call quickly. But we got some great guys in our ear helping us.
How do you weigh all that risk, with, like you said, the weather? Obviously there's always a chance of field goals, miss a bad snap, and then even not kicking it on 3rd down versus 4th down. I mean,
that's what makes the world go around. You got to. You get a lot of, and then a lot of it's your gut and what you really feel. I mean, you got facts about how you got to do things, and then knowing the people involved in that situation. And again, what you're asking me right now is why sports is sports. Because everybody can sit here and debate the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it. There could have been 15 different ways to do it. But what is your thought process, and what do you and what people don't understand is what you know about your own players, which to me is still the most vital thing. Because at the end of the day, all those right decisions, all the scenarios, all that, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure you're asking the people who you have on your team do what they're truly capable of. And I think that's what makes sports so argumentative, opinionated, all of the scenarios, because of how you can handle those situations. That's why it's such a hot topic, and why we got 7,000 talk shows and 800 zillion experts. In what we do. I mean, I say that jokingly, but it is. I mean, it creates. I mean, you can talk about it over, and you can talk about it for 3 days. That's 3 days of radio work.
I don't know if it was in the moment or even after that game. What happened in the Clemson game when they're trying to run out the clock and set up a field goal and they fumbled? Did that ever really become something that you thought about?
No, you think of positive things. You think who you're handing it to, what the situation is, or how you're handing it to them. You know what I'm saying? But at that time, or the last time we could have centered it without handing it. Mm-hmm. But we worked on it. We have a way to do that. But just felt more comfortable. We'd done this more often. Thought the percentage would be just as good, and we'd still get the ball centered.
Did you see James bobble the snap a little bit?
On snap. Mm-hmm. If we'd have snapped it on 3rd down, he could have did it on 3rd down on field goal. Went through their hands. I mean, inches are sports.
Why have you guys been able to run the ball so effectively in situations like you're trying to run out the clock? Seems like that's when you're at your best, maybe running the football.
I think they understand that's what it takes to be successful, and you don't want that team to get it back and to win. I know that sounds crazy, because sometimes when you get things done, because you got to get things done. About that simple sometimes. Sometimes people have the ability to, I got to get it done, I do it. That's just, everybody says, why don't you do it all the time? Well, it doesn't work that way. Wish it did. If it did, I could go home at 6 o'clock every year.
I know you live in the moment and you're not reflecting yet, but when Jameis was named the starting quarterback, did you think these heights could be reached where he hasn't lost a game and you're in the contention for?
No, I think that all the time, no matter who the quarterback is. Mm-hmm. I really do. I don't say that in any slight to Jameis. I mean, I think whoever we put, that's our goal and what we think all the time. I mean, that's now to say we're doing it. I mean, that's your goal. I mean, I'm realistic to say that sometimes they are, sometimes they ain't. But we're going to do everything we can to continue to do that. And I don't think we're going to fail, but I don't think that I'm not arrogant enough to think that that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I just want to be the best we can be.
Dante Fowler, their defensive end, what makes him so effective?
You name it. I'm going to tell you, talk about a guy that loves to play, you can watch him, just his energy level. Then he's athletic. He's physical. He can stand up. He can get down. He can play linebacker. He can play DN. He can go play nose. Can rush the passer like crazy. He can run in space and tackle. He can bend. I mean, remember we had that one committed. He was a heck of a player too. I mean, that guy's a heck of a football player now. And you can see a guy that loves to play on the field. We'll have to definitely know where he's at.
Good challenge for Rod.
No, great challenge. He's a great challenge for anybody.
Do you expect anything different? I think he said that he's going to leave and enter the draft. Would you expect?
Who is that?
Fowler.
I think is that right there, junior or senior?
Junior.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, would you expect any type of different play considering he's already got his eyes toward the NFL?
I don't know how he can play any better, but I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll come in here ready to play. I mean to say a guy. I mean, if you could turn it on and turn it off that way, it'd be a fun game. But I mean, I see that guy playing that way all the time. That's the way to me he plays all the time.
How big was Matthew Thomas' penalty? Not just penalty.
It was. It got that drive going.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to ask. That was. I thought when I saw it at the end, when you see him, his head from the end zone copy, you can't see on TV. On the end zone, he turns his head, and his shoulder hits his shoulder first. I mean, I don't think it was ill intent, like he said, to do it, but that call was made. I mean, I understand where it was made. I'm not questioning the call, but I sent in just a question. You know, I'm going to ask their scenario on it. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like he was trying to hurt somebody when he did it. And from the end zone copy, you can really see his head turns, and his shoulder hits his shoulder first, and then the side of his head hits the guy, which in the other appearance, it looks like the front of it does. I could see it from our end zone copy, but it was big because it gives them yardage down there to keep moving the ball.
I mean, he seemed like he was playing really well.
He's playing extremely well. He was playing as well as any linebacker we had. Now, and I'm thinking, I mean, he was pulling this pin coming downhill, hitting guys, and he's just really merging into himself right now, and it's a shame. But we got a lot of ball left.
Yeah, you have him out for the first half.
Yeah, should be out for the first half.
Jimbo, is the ref supposed to be standing over the ball in a situation like
Here's the new rule. See, we're one of the few leagues that went to 8 officials. Okay? And this has never happened to our quarterbacks. Saying his back's to the play. And we run a hurry-up play. Well, Carlos had gotten hurt and left off, and we swapped tailback, but they went ahead and were already substituted. But Jameson, we did the hurry-up play. Well, it used to stand over the center. Okay, well, that's when you have 7 officials. And then that guy blows it and tries to run back, or gets back and blows it. Well, this 8th, which we're one of the us in the Big 12, I believe, used it. Well, they stand there, and it never happened. And he didn't. If you watch, he did. But when he turned, he's trying to. It's like a quick tempo play. He's trying to. Well, he'd never had a guy do that before. He's never had an official be there before. It's always standing over the ball. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And you happen in the middle of a game, you turn around, and he's trying to step around to get in front. He didn't. I mean, you know what I mean? He didn't push. You can see him. He's trying to get his shoulder in and get in there and get the ball. It had never happened to us before. In that scenario, and part of it is, like Doug has said, and he meant no ill will, and I'm glad. I thought the official did a tremendous job, and I'm not saying it because it's James. He wasn't trying to push. He wasn't yelling. It wasn't, you know, and they say contact, but there is incidental contact. And when you have a new rule to where an 8th official is in a place that you've never had that happen as a player, and your back's to it, and you turn around trying to get in it, it's very explainable what happened. And then if they handled it right, and we were able to run the play, and that's what happens. See, we have an 8th official in our league. Those 2 guys standing back there now.
You appreciate the Doug Rhodes count?
I really do. I really appreciate Doug doing that, and I thought it was very noble. But it's the truth. See, that's the thing that we all want a controversy, and I think part of it's true is because who he is and what goes on. Everything he does is a lightning rod. But there was no ill will, no ill malice, and I appreciate Doug doing it. I really did in our conference. They do a great job.
There was never any concern that the ACC would take any type of punishment there.
I didn't at the time. It's crazy. I didn't even think anything about it because they're in the middle of the game. You know what I mean? 'Cause, I mean, it wasn't like they're in a push and stand there in a push and shoving match. You know what I'm saying?
Anything else?
Good.
Oh,
Heck, y'all wearing me out.
One last thing, Jimbo. With
You
this
always
being a
say that.
yeah. With the rivalry, you know, with Florida and Florida State, does that ever get translated to recruiting as well, where sometimes it can get a little ugly on the recruiting trail with?
Oh, it does. I mean, when guys get into it, I don't believe in negative recruiting. If anybody on our staff does it, we get rid. We don't ever do that. But recruiting, not saying with them. Recruiting is recruiting. People say and do things that sometimes they wish you probably didn't do when it's over with. You know, that always happens.